Hey Raghu, hi Gary. Early morning for you guys.
Yeah, good to see you.
Same here.
Okay, great. We are live early morning for Gary and Raghu, who's just joined us from the United States. Thank you, guys. Thank you, all of you, for joining back on VCTV to discuss about impact investments, social responsibility investments in the space, and all the business areas that we're going to cover today in terms of investments. Where are these investors looking to invest into in 2021? Because the pandemic has taught us one thing for sure. We have to look for investing into those startups which bring in value in terms of sustainability, right? So that's the core. Not only government, not only sorry, private sector startups, but also government, right? It's all aligned in terms of vision for 2021 and beyond. So yeah, before I start introducing my speakers, let me introduce myself. My name is Sunny Mohanji. I'm the regional director of LATOKEN. I'm based here in Singapore. I've been hosting VCTV since last year, 2020, and I have met all of you but one. Today we have a new speaker, new guest from Indonesia, which is in Southeast Asia. Since I'm in Singapore, so yeah, so he's joining us for the very first time. Let's start with your introduction, Edward, because you joined us for the very first time. Over to you with your introduction and background, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sunny. Yeah, my name is Edward Ismawan Kamdani. I run a venture capital since 2011 under the name IDEO Source Venture Capital. And just about 2-3 years ago, I switched into the impact investment. So I set up Gaio Capital. So our focus is mostly in agriculture, waste, recycling, reuse, and many other impact investment that we do. As we know that Indonesia is an archipelago, we have remote places that I think there will be more investment from venture capitalists. So back to Sonny. Yeah, back to you, Sonny.
Of course, Edward. Thank you so much. We also had somebody from Malaysia. Probably couldn't make it because of another overlapping meeting. But yes, rightly said. Very rightly said. Thanks for the introduction and welcome to VCTV. Great. Next, I have Harsh. Our ventures, Harsh. Your introduction and background, please.
Hey Sony, glad to be back and have familiar faces with Gary and Raghu as always. Pleasure to have them. And Edward meeting him for the first time as well. So brief bio about myself. My name is Harsh Shetia. I'm founder of Startup Hackers. It's a Facebook group where I'm helping early stage startups with a lot of knowledge, a lot of information to help them start out. At the same time, I'm also working with as a growth partner for a lot of other startups and as a venture partner with our ventures helping startups raise up to $10 million of funds. We are completely sector agnostic. Doesn't matter health tech, media, marketing, etc. We help all kind of startups help them raise funds and expand them to go global. And looking forward to this amazing discussion today. Thank you.
Awesome, and welcome back, Harsh. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next I have from the United States, Raghu, who's just joined us after a break of 1 month. Hi, Raghu. Welcome back. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you, Sonny and VCTV. I took a break only from the Singapore. The my nights got longer, so we're still on the other one, the other circuit. So,
right.
So I'm from Princeton, New Jersey. Excited to be here. Actually, I'm getting my vaccine today. So talk about impact. There's life-saving impact potentially, things like this. So, I think one of the things I would like to talk about a little bit is how do you measure impact. What I like to do is what we call double dipping. In addition to having profitable business, you can take that and again reinvest in charity, which I think is only for very old or very, very young people who can't help themselves.
Okay. Awesome. Good to know that you're getting vaccinated today. Do let us know if you could, what's the after effects of the vaccination. I don't think everybody on this panel are vaccinated yet against COVID-19. I'm not. So yeah, and welcome back, Raghu, to the Singapore panel, as you rightly said. Thank you. Next, we have Gary Fowler. Hi, Gary. Good morning.
Hi. Good to see everybody today for their smiling faces. So my name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies. I was on the original management team at Click Software, sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, a premier AI HR tech company. I'm the CEO, co-founder, and president of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, premier AI and quantum venture studio, located in Silicon Valley. We love AI. AI is the new electricity. We love cybersecurity and decentralized cybersecurity, right, Raghu?
Yes, absolutely.
And because we know the quantum computers are coming, and we want to make sure we're safe. So I write a lot. I've written, actually, my next article is on quantum tunneling and the impact of wireless communications. Actually, my article after that is on decentralized cybersecurity, which I'm actually putting together right now for Forbes magazine. So love this stuff. And it's great to be here and great to see friendly faces. I feel like it's family hour.
Yes, every day on
I don't know
VC.
it's about the circuit. I feel like the circuit thing is like, it's a speaking circuit now, but I feel like the family circuit hour. How about that?
Yeah, of course. If I don't see you, I
Impact
miss.
circuit, Sunny.
Yeah.
Impact circuit.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. This
Yeah.
is the mental health hour. You know what I mean? At the beginning of the pandemic, we needed to reach out. So this was the impact investing panel in ourselves.
Definitely.
VCT has got into the therapy business.
Yeah,
VCT has
exactly.
gone into therapy business, right?
Can you tell me a little bit more about it, Harsh?
Crazy.
So,
Good relationship with your mother.
Wow.
I don't mean that bad. I mean a therapeutic one.
so I'm very happy and glad that it has brought in a very positive impact on all of us. Gary seems to be like, the showman.
The showman. No, there's a difference between the showman and the character.
Oh gosh, I get to laugh every day. I mean, we have to laugh. I mean, for good health, right? I mean, we all are within this four walls, right? Mostly in Singapore, I am where I am. So I think it's definitely.
Sonny, you just said I am where I am. What is this?
Well, I can't move out. That's
I am
funny.
where I am because I am.
Yeah, I can't travel out. If I travel out, when I come in, I have to be 14 days in some hotel just eating their food. It's
No,
so
but I
mad.
see you on your bike on the weekends. You're riding your bike down by the beach and you're dancing around doing like TikTok kind of things.
I have to. Otherwise, how would I survive, sustain?
That's great. See, that's your outlet.
Yes, that's my weekends. I have to. Otherwise, I'm just dying to fly out. But anyways, I can't. But it's a different story.
Soon.
Sure. Great. So yes, that's the impact that VCTV has on me, on all of us. That's why we are here. So talking about impact, startups, impact investments. So let's start with this. What is sustainable investing? What is impact investing? What is a sustainable business? And how to develop that sustainable thinking? Let's start with Harsh.
Sure. So essentially,
Hey, Harsh, don't answer them all at one time. That was a big question.
exactly. I'll try to have a small piece at one time. So
Go for it.
sustainable investing, if you look at it, right, essentially the focus is in trying to ensure that currently the economy of the global economy that we have right now, we have a lot of problems in terms of greenhouse emissions, a lot of climate crisis is there. So we need to ensure that in the longer run, we have built some sort of sustainability into the process, right? You look at it, the kind of the crazy storms which happened in Texas, they're still struggling for it despite it being 10 days, and still they've still not been able to recover. The wildfires which happened in California last year, it's absolutely crazy, right? The kind of things that are happening. So that's why sustainable investment is primarily in terms of trying to ensure that we take care of the mother earth in a way, so that it kind of really improves and it becomes sustainable in the long run for everyone, right? During the COVID lockdowns, it was absolutely miraculous that in the the canals of Venice, you could actually see dolphins traveling around within the canals of Venice. Even in India, from all the way from Jalandhar, you could see the Himalaya mountains, which haven't been seen in the last 40, 50 years. That's absolutely miraculous. So we need to, ensure a lot of climate is being taken care of and do a lot of sustainable investments in the longer run. At the same time, you look at it in the additional aspect of it. There's another aspect of sustainability as well, right? It's not traditionally talked in about in that way, but I would like to extend it to that in terms of focusing on the bottom of the pyramid, right? India, the entire Southeast Asian continent, the amount of poverty at the bottom of the pyramid is absolutely staggering, right? We can't have the top 10, 20 cities, racing towards the future, racing forward, and we have the entire bottom 70% of the population. They're completely stuck in their ways. They're not moving up. They're just We can't have like two separate Indias. We need to have one coherent India with the entire 100% of the people, kind of moving forward. There was this major article written a couple years back, "The Wealth at the Bottom of the Pyramid" by Dr. C.K. Prahlad. It has to be one of the most, insightful and deep articles on a topic like this, because we completely kind of ignored the entire bottom of the pyramid that was out there, right? And the situation which that has created right now is, even in the conventional businesses, the amount of severe competition is happening because everyone is targeting this limited 20 cities urban population, and you're completely ignoring the rest of the population. Because of that, that people is not able to grow into the economy, and your economy has reached a cap. It cannot grow beyond. If you can get that economy into the fold as well, it'll collectively drive your economy up, and it'll benefit the companies as well in the long run. So you need to have a much more long view approach to kind of ensure to bring those people back into the economy.
Thank you for that short answer, Harsh.
This answer cannot be a short one.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Edward, your insights, your views, obviously. First of all, I'd like to know which countries or geography do you cover in terms of venture investments, and what stage of stuff do you invest in?
We do have one investment in Silicon Valley, but most of our investment is having a thesis that it has to be either in Indonesia, as far as the location that they're operating, or the focus is Indonesia as a market. So there are some portfolio lately that we invest is focusing on agriculture, but we implement a method of investment using a venture debt method. Because in venture capital is usually we have to invest in a growth mindset, but when we invest in agriculture businesses, especially in the upstream side, it's difficult for us to focus mainly on growth. So we have to help them with the venture debt type, meaning that the working capital has to be there, right? Some of the VC, is they're reluctant that their money is being used for the working capital, but with the venture debt, we are able to do it. Yeah. So yes, I mean, to answer back to your questions, that our investment mostly in Indonesia, Sonny.
Right. Perfect. So yeah, just after that, I just want to know what your thoughts about how to build sustainable business or startups. I mean, open question.
Okay. Especially in the agriculture, I'm focusing more on the agriculture because this is something that we are doing right now. The way I look at it, if you see, Indonesia is quite famous with the palm oil, but most of the palm oil businesses in Indonesia are being run by conglomeration. So it's a monoculture way of doing agribusiness. But we know, for some commodity, for example, like coconut, coconut 95% to 98% are being run by small farmers. Yeah, there's only probably 2 to 3% are being run by conglomeration. Because of this, it's difficult to have the innovation and also infrastructure to help the small farmers. So it's not really sustainable in a way that there's someone that has the investment focus on the small farmers. There's no focus on the infrastructure by the government. So yeah, in a way, that's my view, that there should be more focus on the remote area and also small farmers, so that it can become sustainable. And also that the the focus on the monoculture, I think we should help more on the polyculture type of the commodities, especially in a country like Indonesia, where we have a lot of land bank and also surplus in our demography. So yeah, that's the way I see on sustainable way of doing business, Sunny.
Yes, perfect. Agriculture, I mean, is a big, I think, like Indonesia, I think India is also, one of the major
Yeah.
countries of agricultural produce. So I totally agree. And I have some background in that. So totally agree with your
Okay.
views. Thank you, Edwin. Thanks. So, Raghu, over to you, please.
Yeah, I like to think of impact not just in terms of the financial impact, but also how it changes our lives and overall. So part of that, I mean, I'm into big transformative purpose, but I want to look for de-risking so that it has a chance of succeeding, the investment in terms of the business succeeding. So I use something called a very simple principle called the Pareto principle, where 20% of resources affect 80% of the outcome, right? So it's a very simple metric, but it's a good way to kind of look at things, especially since I'm focused on the early stage. So the impact I'm looking for, I'm looking at three areas. Green tech, clean tech, which is for the environment, and then biotech, med tech, saving lives, extending lives, whatever. Those are directly, you can see the pandemic tells us how it can directly save lives, right? And then the third is the cybersecurity, and actually Gary and I cooperating on one, which is the decentralized cybersecurity. And
Wow.
I believe cyber crime is supposed to cause like $3 trillion of damage in the next 10 years. I mean, we're not talking small amounts here. So anything we do, we don't even have to measure the impact. I mean, that it's going to make a huge impact. And the kind of companies I like to invest in are things that are going to be like kind of broad platform thing that can be applied horizontally across industries.
Wow. Oh, that's good news. Congratulations. But I didn't know about the collaboration between you and Gary. That's awesome news. That's fantastic news in the cybersecurity space, especially. Thank you so much for sharing sharing that with us, Raghu. Next, I have Gary.
Yeah, so I mean, so let's look at the world the way it is today, and let's look at about what the future looks like. So, we've got the population of the planet is currently about 8.1 billion. Will be about 13 billion by the end of by 2100. Then at the same time, we've got rising sea levels, right? Current rising sea levels could be as high as 8.2 feet by the end of the century. In Florida, by the year 2040, it'll be up 17 inches. This is minimal, right? So we've got some challenges. We've got to go down through, and the damage that we've caused. Harsh said the right thing in terms of the Himalayas. In the last 30 years, we haven't been able to see the Himalayas. It's only been during the pandemic. Why? Because people weren't driving their cars around. So we understand we can make a dent in the universe. Then we've got to, simple things like the circular economy. Instead of throwing stuff away and disposing of it, we've got to recycle it, but we got to make it easier. I don't know about you, but I mean, this is like, I'm at the Polo Club in Palm Beach, and it's crazy because we had all these different bins set out. Now they're saying just throw everything into the dumpster. Right now, these are pretty well-heeled folks. I'm the poor guy on the block, but these are it's crazy. And so, but we got to make it easier. If we have certain, there's different plastics have serial numbers on them, so being able to make it easier for people to be able to recycle it, because everybody on the call, all our audience would recycle if they knew exactly which. It's not just about paper, it's about what kinds of plastic. So there's a lot of opportunity we have to move forward. The other situation is, with the increased population, agriculture. How are we going to be able to feed enough people on this planet? We got to optimize that opportunity. So the technologies like Internet of Things and sensors in the field, so we can real time get the data and course correct instantly. I'm really bullish, and Raghu talked about cybersecurity and AI and quantum computing. I mean, this is going to be a challenge. Imagine a computer on the slow side that is 100 million times faster than the fastest supercomputer today. Let me put it in perspective. What that means is that something that would take a supercomputer to process and would take 10,000 years on a supercomputer takes 200 seconds on a quantum computer. Seconds. So
Wow.
now if you're going to try to prevent a cyber attack, imagine how widespread that could be. I mean, and look at, if you see where you have grids in London, you've got banks in the US, issues in India, right? They're already probing. I'm telling you, this is already, it's not like it's maybe it'll happen. There's already probing taking place. Why? Because there are vulnerabilities. So the good news is what we have to do is we need to learn how to work together to be able to, we are on a planet where one of 6 billion in the Milky Way galaxy, Earth-like planets, and there are 200 trillion galaxies in the universe estimated. We are just a small little tiny dot. Christopher Altman's one of the astronauts was on VCTV, and I developed a pretty good rapport with him, and also Per Wimmer, one of the astronauts that works with that's Peter Branson's partner and friend. And we had some deep discussion. He said, it's only when you're outside you're looking down at the planet Earth, and you're out in the space, you understand how small we really are, right? We each have we talk about religion, we talk about, doing the right thing, but we need to keep our planet clean for multi-generations. It's just not about us. It's about our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, et cetera. So I'm bullish about it because we have technologies that are coming out with artificial intelligence, with quantum, to be able to make dramatic impacts in a positive way. We need to use those effectively. So what we're interested in, any type of artificial intelligence across multiple vertical markets that are going to have an impact. Also, the democratization of opportunity. Just like VCTV here today, we have 3 companies in Africa today, right? Creating jobs for people makes relationships go dramatically up. We start working together for a common goal. So let's create jobs, and let's not do it in an entitled way. Let's actually create unicorns in a very proactive, global way to be able to impact the world. And it's happening today. This started in a big way a year ago with the pandemic. That was the way this thing really started to move forward, and we're really excited about it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gary. I think you covered most of the topics that I wanted to discuss, but it's anyways, it's good to have this as opening remarks. I have another speaker who just joined in. Hi, Stanley. Welcome to VCTV.
Hi, everybody. It's actually amazing that we're talking about impact investing because unfortunately the power has been off the whole time. And we were waiting for the power to come back on. So I do apologize about that, but I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, of course. Glad to hear about from you as well, because you represent or you invest into the geography, which is obviously doing a lot in the space. So yeah, can you help with your introduction background so that we can move on to the next question as well?
Of course. My name is Stanley Anyete. I am an investment officer with Schroders Investment Management, focused on impact investing across the globe. I'm also the professor of corporate social responsibility at TS Nimbus in the Netherlands. And most of my time is actually spent working on impact investment instruments and how we can actually finance the space. Thank you.
Okay, great. Welcome back, Stanley. I hope you're going to be with us and there would be no power cuts. But anyways, I like the sun falling, the sun rays and the trees. Oh, it's amazing. Thank you so much. Talking about impact investments, climate change is one of the biggest challenges of our time. So let's talk about climate change. What are startups? Who are the startups in this climate space who are bringing radical changes or working towards a better Earth? Let's start with Hirsch. and startups, and what kind of investments are going in the space as well?
Correct. So right now, as Gary pointed out, right, there's a lot more to the world than just kind of consumption. It's also about what kind of legacy we leave behind, what kind of planet that we leave behind for the succeeding generations, right? And right now, if you look at it, it's in a pretty bad shape. And that's why it's extremely important to kind of move to the other side and kind of try to look at long-term conservation of the environment, of the forests and the natural resources, right? So currently, if you look at it, obviously most of the attention is going towards the electric vehicles, right? Ever since Tesla kind of launched that, that is the one which is taking bulk of the attention, and bulk of the focus has gone towards there. So to kind of make that electric vehicle dream sustainable, there are two elements to it. First is you need to have much more electrical charging stations available, which are extremely efficient. At the same time, the source of the electricity should be extremely efficient, right? It doesn't matter if you have an electric vehicle, but the energy which is used to generate that electricity, if that is thermal or hydro, creating a lot of pollution, it does, in the end, it doesn't really solve the problem, right? There, those kind of challenges need to be taken care of. It cannot be a very symptomatic or a very surface kind of a solution. It has to be a deeper solution. So unless we actually figure out ways of building the electricity in the right way, using other forms of electricity generation like solar for one, and tidal for one, thermal, not thermal, wind for one. Though unless we get them sustainable ways, it's not really possible to sustain. There was this documentary which was published, I think about a year or two back, where they kind of highlighted the kind of challenges with solar power, hydropower, and they're not as green and as safe as people actually assume them to be. So that's exactly what we need, something much more fundamental to ensure that the electricity generation process is extremely smooth. It doesn't do as much greenhouse gas emission as we expect it to be. That is the primary aspect which we need to look at. Additionally, the second major aspect is how do we get rid of plastic as quick as possible, right? Plastic about 50 years back was hailed to be like one of the greatest inventions which was ever made, and now we are kind of seeing the kind of drawbacks and the dangers of that, right? It's a material which takes about thousands of years to decompose and turn to something else. You cannot get rid of plastic no matter what. So that is a very how we can move away from plastic as quickly as possible and try to recycle it and use it multiple times, so that we don't have to dump it, but we can simply reuse it and try to keep it over here. These are some of the areas where we need to focus really hard upon.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those insights. I totally agree on that aspects. So talking about that, how can we make this energy, this green energy, this renewable energy, uh, affordable? Like so obviously for impact businesses, it's more. I think it's more on the impact side and less on the profit side. If I understand. So how can we measure this impact in terms of making it affordable at the same time green and clean? Edward, you can, yeah, let's go with you with this.
Yep. Well, on the energy side, to be frank with you, we haven't invested in any startup focusing on that, but more on the impact of the climate change. We do have a company that do the recycled PET. That's for plastic. And anything that has to do with the acceleration of decarbonization. I think, like I mentioned about the monoculture, that is something that if you cut all the forests, and then to plant only one, monoculture commodity, like palm oil, it's not really something that absorb the carbon effectively. So it's not sustainable, and it's not really inclusive in sustaining the growth of the surrounding. So and then as far as the fossil fuel, in Indonesia, we still use plenty of that, especially on the remote area whereby the power generation is coming from burning either the coal or the diesel engine. So this is something that we need to do a lot of effort to change that. It's quite complicated because we have 17,000 islands. There are plenty of initiative concerning the implementing the solar panels. but it's not really effective in a way because we are in the equatorial line. The absorption, I think, is less than 60%. And then actually we have a very good source of energy in terms of gas, yeah. But there's quite complicated politically in Indonesia. But yeah, it's something that is not is still progressing in a way, but not ideal yet in Indonesia. Sonny.
Right. Good to know. Good to know about those points, Edward. Really appreciate. Raghu, talking about climate change, renewable energy, green energy. How can we make it affordable? And are you working with any startups in that space besides health tech and cybersecurity, or can you share any insights or what's been getting done in the space?
Sure. Actually, I'm working in working with three startups in three different areas. One is energy efficiency. Another one is in clean fuel and biofuels, and third one is in circular economy, recycling the supply chain for the circular economy. All three are important from different aspects. The first one, if you take energy efficiency, this company out of New Mexico actually focuses on two-way energy efficient glass. It's a coating on glass. So normal energy efficient glass, now the state of the art is it lets the solar heat out so that the inside is kind of keeps the solar gain in right. The problem with that is it doesn't work all through the year. So this particular coating, it's a nanotechnology coating that lets the heat in based on the temperature. It triggers a phase change. So during the summer, it will let the heat in. And during the, the other way around, keeps the heat out. And in the winter, it lets it in so that your energy costs go down, right? Yeah. So it's a very simple technology. There's no, switch or anything. It's just based on the material itself, the doping. The temperature can be controlled. So automatically, based on the temperature, it will behave the right way, right? So that's the kind of technology we want. So that's one example. The energy clean fuels, I'm working with a company out of MIT that's using clean fuels, biodiesel actually. They can use like things that normally go into the landfill, like brown grease, used cooking oil, animal fat, things like that, and using that as a raw material to create biodiesel. So, you were asking how this can happen is in that particular space, there is a lot of subsidy from the government. For every gallon of biodiesel in the US, especially now, and in Europe, there's a lot of subsidy. Almost 3 times that you can get from government subsidies at the federal and state level. Right. So this is one of the things that I think governments can actually do to change the behavior, right? Yeah. And help early stage companies, especially. The third one, the circular economy that I was talking about. This company is into recycling, finding the supply chain, especially computer waste, solar waste. Solar panels are very hard to get rid of. It's great when they're working, but at the end of life cycle, we forget about these things. The full carbon footprint you have to see of the industry. While they're working, it may have a certain carbon footprint, but when it comes to end of life, it can create so much waste, or the production creates so much carbon emissions that if you don't look at the total carbon footprint, then you can be mistaken. Like electric vehicle industry is an example of that. So this company actually has a way to they source the things to be recycled, and then they find the people who can use them, and they kind of bridge that. So
all right. Sure, great points there. I mean, obviously, especially in this sector, we need obviously support from government for sure. I agree to that, but especially early stage companies. Thank you so much. So Stanley, what's happening? What's your thoughts? What's happening in the region that you invest in? What do you see coming from the government in terms of support? Then we go to Gary, because Gary sort of covered everything in his first opening remarks. So Stanley.
Yeah, I think I'm going to speak in terms of the African space. Given the lack of, if I can say, liquidity and money from the government side, I mean, there's a lot of dependence on, the the first world in order to invest in initiatives around, if I can say, renewables. I think Africa's biggest problem when it comes to climate change is more the transition from fossil fuel use into more sustainable type of energy use, and of course, agriculture. I mean, we are supporting quite a few companies, and most of those companies are in the space of providing renewable energy infrastructure to actually move people away from using diesel generated, if I can say, energy. For example, we're supporting a company that actually makes solar fridges, where you actually keep this fridge in the sun during the day, and it actually absorb all the energy in order to power the fridges at night. And those are the kind of things that in a minuscule fashion can actually, if I can say, transition the whole idea of burning fossil fuels. I mean, a lot of things have been talked about when we discuss, dumping and waste and things like that, but that's not really been the biggest problem in Africa, but merely the transition from fossil fuel. So our investment is more focused on the solar technologies, and of course looking at hydropowered energy and those type of energy infrastructure in order to resolve that. We don't really, like I said again, we don't really have a problem with a lot of waste due to the fact that we are not that industrialized in order to generate that excess waste that the first world actually does. But in terms of our agricultural waste, and I mean that's also one of the positive things that is happening, is that some of the agricultural waste is actually being turned into energy, where there's one or two companies that are able to turn agricultural waste into energy. I mean, there's a company in Ghana that we just invested in that actually turns feces into energy. So, our focus is more trying to turn those kind of, if I can say, those type of waste, those type of waste into energy, rather than trying to make sure that we don't fill up the landfills. So in the African space, that's where the focus in terms of trying to deal with, if I can say, climate change.
Right. I mean, yes, it's very Africa focused, and it's not industrialized, as you rightly said. But yes, good to know what's coming from Africa as well. My next question to Gary will be a little different, because Gary, I remember, has invested into one of the startup in this space. So how to achieve still gender equality and empower all women and girls? So this is also one of the agendas of the UN. And so Gary, would like to know your perspectives and insights on this topic.
I mean, we've been very supportive. My classes at my accelerator in Russia, both at the Skolkovo Startup Academy and GVA, we don't do it in an entitlement kind of way. We look for the best women to be able to fill the class up. We had 50% of our classes were women. By the way, on the board of GSD is a board member of the NAACP. So in the U.S., which is one of the top Black groups in the U.S., and it's not just something that happened yesterday. I've been working in that environment 15 years. So I mean, we're out to make a dent in the universe. So one thing that's been really interesting through our accelerator, and by the way, our company in South Africa is Prime U. She's a Zulu from Africa. So I mean, we put our money where our mouth is to make a little dent. The one thing we want to do is it's also given the opportunities, right? Bringing those resources out. In Russia, getting female entrepreneurs to come out initially was not so easy. And then now there's women in tech. This is 10 years ago, right? When we got started. So part of it is showing the opportunity. Part of it is education. Just like in Nigeria, they have startup Saturdays, AI Saturdays. So you want to go out and you want to encourage women to come out, but you also want to encourage everybody, right? This is about, sharing the opportunity. No matter what culture you're from, no matter what color of the skin, it's come out and let's work together. In the Black community in the U.S., one of the challenges, and this is right from my Black actor friends, Kasim Reed, the mayor of Atlanta, a good friend of mine, Lamel McMorris, who's on the NAACP board, is showing role models. There aren't that many Black CEOs in the world. So why don't we go down, especially in tech? So we got to show, how to come in. So we came up with this idea of a fellows program to encourage, initially folks that have graduated from Princeton in the U.S., Princeton, Harvard, Yale, MIT, to give back, right? To become a fellow in a tech company, an AI tech company, to be able to give back, learn what it's like to run one of those companies, actually put them in and seed it like we did in Russia.
Right.
So it's, part of it's education, part of it's showing the opportunity. Another thing, success breeds success. So you saw one female entrepreneur, Belka, in Russia. She was one of my students. They've got 5,000 cars now. It's it's a rent. It's like the Airbnb of car rentals. But the key is, you have one success and that breeds another 10 more. So, we're putting, in fact, my partner, Stanley, are you in South Africa now, or where are you? Nigeria or South Africa?
I'm in South Africa now. Go on.
Okay. Because Derek's coming to Nigeria. He decided he's going to fly to Nigeria for the weekend. So anyhow, but part of it's getting out and, spreading the message, just like VCTV is doing now, Sonny. Seriously, but it absolutely works. This is the greatest idea during the pandemic, is spread the word, because, Nikola Tesla from 1891 to 1898 talked about democratization of opportunity and the wireless transmission of power. Seriously. He talked about the ionosphere and basically to give power to everybody. What happened? JP Morgan and Rockefeller, Rockefeller didn't like it with Standard Oil, because what happens is everybody has power. You don't need oil, right? Now, it's amazing that over 100 years later, we're talking about the same things. It's unbelievable. So part of it is, lessons learned. Part of it is not, let's talk about the political part, but let's really empower the people in a very positive way to make those changes. So the good news is now, because of the VCTVs of the world, and I'm not taking it lightly, I'm seriously, you're reaching out to so many people, you're educating people. I get I'm sure all of us do, right? I get the emails and LinkedIn requests, et cetera, of people that really are interested in changing their lives, that really want to make their families' lives better and want to have an impact in their region. So, education is the first part of it. The other thing is, it's just like Stanley's doing. I think, Stanley, you're on the board of Philips too, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I mean, Philips, one of the largest companies in the world. Stanley's you're the impact advisor, correct? Yeah, I mean, think about it. Right here, you got the guy that's, one of the top guys in the planet Earth. He's he's in his backyard right now, but he's one of the top in the world, right? Use your resources wisely, right? These are people that can help. So, Stanley's one of them, and he's got what? Triodos is $4.9 billion, right?
Yeah, you're right. Gary, you know more about me than I do.
Oh, Gary does his homework.
No, Gary has a photographic memory, unfortunately, and so Gary can't forget things. Sometimes I try, but anyhow, think about it. So you've got a person right here that's got $4.9 billion with a B that is an investor in impact. So if I was a startup out there today, I would be getting on his LinkedIn profile right now and be saying, Stanley, I want to talk. I got something that's going to make a dent in the universe. And by the way, it's in South Africa and Africa. Can you help? This is like keep it simple, stupid. If you got it in front of you, if you're going to go fishing and the fish are jumping, you got to put your hook in the water with a little bait.
I just realized I've got Stanley's LinkedIn profile right in front of me because I was messaging him today.
There you go. Seriously, I'm not kidding you. You'd be surprised who's on CTV. I'm serious. Look at Ragu, right? I mean, Ragu's company. Hey, Ragu, can I say about your company a little bit?
Sure.
So Ragu has a company at $1.5 billion in sales. Seriously, right? So then
we need to replicate that. This was already exited one.
Yeah, but I mean, we're replicating it. So that's the good news. So what I'm saying is the people are right here that can make a dent in the universe. So it's not about the talk; it's about the action, right?
Yeah.
So this is VCTV. You've got two people right here. Well, you got more than two here that can help. So reach out.
So one thing I learned from Gary's talk over there is we need to be really careful what we say to Gary henceforward.
I don't know. It's not a bad thing, though. It's just something I remember.
Right. Okay, great.
Sorry, go on.
Go on, Stanley. Go on.
Yeah, I do believe Gary is absolutely right, because I mean, I think when people think about impact investment, they do forget that, you know, the world is actually currently in transition. Okay, now the way we do things 50 years ago, 20 years ago is absolutely different, and that's the idea of impact investing, is providing the capital for the innovators to actually help the world transition to a better way of operating, whether to create equality, whether to help with climate change and all of this. So impact investing is not about just doing social things. It's actually, and I do believe in about the next 10 to 20 years, the priority investment, if I can say, vertical that everybody is going to follow up. So I do think that, you know, it's something that needs to be taken seriously, and really, I mean, both investors and entrepreneurs need to actually start thinking ahead, and actually, if I can say, positioning themselves in order to be aligned with the new state of the world. So, Gary, I fully comprehend with what you're saying right now.
Right, perfect. So coming to Raghu, let's talk about well-being, good health. So what's being done in that space? And obviously, I remember you obviously have portfolio startups in that space. So what's happening in this space, if you can share?
Yeah, I think the wellness space is very important, because a lot of the pharma, as you know, is focused on kind of more chronic treatments where they can just keep ringing their counter, right? So we need companies that are focusing on cure as well as extending lives and things like that, as opposed to just focus on medication, which is more like a managing the illness as opposed to curing the illness or preventing the illness. So I think it's exactly the opposite in cybersecurity. Everybody is focusing on prevention and reaction, but not on the the vaccine kind of thing, right? So I think right now the pandemic has brought a lot of things to the forefront in terms of which technologies are kind of have the maximum impact, right? So prevention is extremely important. Everybody understands that, just right from COVID, pandemic perspective. Reaction is also there, but managing prevention and management are very, very key. And one of the things that another technology that's been brought to the forefront is the testing. Because if you don't know if somebody's got the infection, I mean, or is infectious, it's extremely hard to manage the whole pandemic, right? How it spreads. And so this technology, some of this technology was in the boonies. No changes had been happening for a very long time, and it was like shaken up by the pandemic. And now a lot of new technologies that are coming in that under 15-minute testing with the same accuracy as the PCR test, right? This is one of the very important things going forward in the next few years to open up the economy. We need to have reliable tests that can be done very quickly, whether it's the schools, the entertainment arenas, or concerts, whatever. For those kind of things to happen again, you need to have a safe environment. And one way is the vaccination is going to take it a certain amount, but that's not going to be enough, because if you have one infectious person getting in, there's still a huge super spreader type of thing that can happen, right? So one of the companies I'm working in, which hopefully will go IPO shortly, because there were 2 IPOs in this space, is in diagnostic testing for COVID-19 as well as other things like flu. I mean, flu kills a lot of people, and until the COVID happened, that did not get enough attention, right? Because the flu vaccine is only 50% efficient, which is unfortunate, right? So this company is working on this 15-minute scalable test, which can, they can do like 60 tests per minute with the same accuracy as RT-PCR, which, unfortunately takes 4 to 8 hours, even in the best case. So that's kind of meaningless, because when you test a person and by the time you get the result, they could have gotten infected in the meanwhile. So I think testing is important. Saving lives, like cancer and diabetes, which affect billions of people, are important. To be able to increase their the time people go on dialysis, for instance. Once they get into things like dialysis, their life changes. They become dependent on having the thrice a week or whatever. They have to go, and whereas if you can extend their life before they have to go into the dialysis, that gives people quality of life for longer. Think technologies like that. So I look for impact like that, real impact. That of course, I use the Pareto principle to decide. At a high level, I'm not going into micrometrics. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, yes, great points. I mean, screening is very important in I think every sphere of health. But very unfortunately, we have screening for certain aspects, but not for all. But I think that's going to change. That should change. Actually. That should change, right?
allergy is probably all of us know. Allergy testing is still in Middle Ages. So
Yeah, totally. I mean, even honestly, even I don't know if I'm allergic to certain things, even though I say I'm not. So yeah, I mean that's true. Okay, anybody would like to talk about wellness?
Yeah, I can say some things. So, I mean, think about the way the world is today, and think about where we're going to go. A few years ago, I was on a panel with some Stanford professors and MBA students. It was living to 120. Well, those days have changed. The target's now 150. Why? Because exactly what we're talking about today. Imagine smart pills. We go for a physical once a year, but the day after the physical, we can start to get cancer. So why in the world would that be the case? Why not have smart pills, nanobots that can actually consistently, real time, which has happened across multiple verticals, understand what's happening with you and be able to report it and imagine being able to fix it. The other thing is, I've written an article recently in Forbes about genomes and gene splitting. Imagine being able to cut those things out before they're a problem. How
Yeah,
much longer would we live?
right.
So, now we've got 3D printing of things like pancreases, et cetera, organs. So now being able to replace. The other thing was singularity, being able to bring, turn us into part cyber, which is already happening. I mean, slowly but surely, titanium hips, titanium knees. I mean, in a dumb way with some of it, and also in a smart way. So these technologies are going to change so that we're going to be looked at on a constant basis. And instead of waiting a year, the way it is today, it's going to be done on a real time basis, course correct. It'll first start with analysis, and then it'll start with prevention, and it'll work into taking care of that problem before it's an issue. So it'll attack it. So imagine getting the cancer cells out before they end up metastasizing. Part of the problem with cancer is it's not the cancer cells, it's all the good area around it that you're destroying. So those are exciting technologies. We talk about diabetes, we talk about cancer, things that are a challenge, but we're coming up with ways to be able to solve those problems. I'm encouraged by it. I'm encouraged about some of the things that are taking place in some of the technologies. And again, AI is at the heart of a lot of them. Think about it. It's the same thing that we're going to have in a city, right? Where a smart city is monitoring all the time. The same kind of transportable AI models can be the ones that are used inside our bodies. The difference is the training sets. So we're in an age, this is the beginning of the 20th century. AI is the new electricity. And now the changes have started. Will slowly happen over time. It's like PCs, right? We came out with these clunky looking trash 80s, and all of a sudden now we got a phone that's got more power than the Apollo capsules, so the space shuttle. So I mean, those technologies are anyhow. The time is with us, and the technologies are there. I was just on a panel in Europe on AI and drug discovery. This was during the pandemic, and so the top pharmaceutical companies in Europe put this together with PharmaVision, and there were 8 of us on this panel. We talked about non-use of how we can do modeling rather than using bench time with artificial intelligence. And by the way, most of the COVID cures came out of artificial intelligence and modeling, not bench time. That's why we developed so quickly.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I'm not saying I had any impact because I'm the country boy, but I spoke my piece. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, artificial intelligence has a big role to play when it comes to healthcare any day.
So sorry,
Right.
just to add to the points which have been mentioned right now, right? So
Yeah.
Raghu was actually telling me about 3 other companies that he's been working in the
Yeah.
healthcare space, right? And each more impressive than the other, the kind of things that he's been working on. I'm trying to figure out how we can collaborate and help them with the India reach as well. So there is this one interesting startup which I am also currently working with. Essentially, they're in the AI space, in the medical transcription space, right? So I'm not sure if you're aware, medical transcription is a $1 billion industry across the world. What they are doing is they're trying to make it simple. Imagine what happened during the COVID times. If the doctors across the world are so hard pressed for time, they find it extremely difficult to kind of document the entire thing and have a central repository of all the
Yeah.
patient data. And because of that, the millions of deaths which happened due to COVID were primarily because of that fault, right? So the company which I'm working with, they are trying to solve that problem, and they are using AI to make it much more simpler that the doctors can transcribe and document each and everything. So the kind of scale, they are still at an early scale right now. They are looking for funds to kind of scale to the next level. But the opportunities in this space, just a simple thing which we tend to ignore, right? We tend to go towards all the advanced things like gene sequencing, molecular biology, and all those advanced things. At the same time, just a simple basic thing of keeping the patient records online, which is easily accessible, identifying the vulnerabilities of each and every patient. Even these basic things, even the most advanced countries of the world are kind of failing at that. And if we can solve these kind of problems, we could have definitely saved millions of lives, which we unfortunately lost due to COVID, by identifying the patients who are the most vulnerable to it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely agree with your points, Harsh. Anybody would like to add anything to health and wellness? Or else I've got a very, as a closing remark, I just want to ask a very good, interesting question because it's very important for the economic growth of any country and the world. So obviously I think the goals of our governments, investors, and startups should be focusing on productive employment, sustainable employment, decent work for everybody to have a sustainable economic growth. So, what do we see in that space? Let's take our closing remarks and close this session on this note. Edward, would you like to go for this first?
Yes, I think, for example, on the gender equality, I agree with Stanley. Stanley mentioned about the, freedom in terms of economic, having the way to, help themselves in spending and also having the money for the freedom. So in a way, I see that especially in Indonesia, whereby the population is quite dense in the capital cities, and I think the impact of that, in remote area, none of the effort are being given to them, in terms of providing infrastructures and others. So in a way, looking back at say like e-commerce, we have more than 5 unicorns in Indonesia, and I think 3 of those are in e-commerce spaces. 90% of the products sold are actually coming from abroad, mostly from China. So
Okay.
I think there should be an effort in a way that local product, is being promoted and help in the process of having a quality product, consistency, scalability, and in a way that they're lacking the market even within our own country. So it should be an effort whereby we support these producers, which is some of the product actually we are not a manufacturing country, but agriculture. So there should be like a DNA whereby we support these small and medium enterprises, especially in remote area, and then use some infrastructure that we have in the e-commerce spaces to help with the demand generation.
Right. Thank you so much for that closing remarks, Edward. So, what's your feedback about
Yeah, thank you.
VCTV for the first time? So, what's your feedback? What's your experience so far on VCTV, being on VCTV? So, Edward, did you hear my
Sorry?
question? So
Sorry,
what's your
sorry. I thought yeah.
so this is your first time being on VCTV. What's
Oh
your
yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think it's quite interesting. I don't think that my peers, as the investors and also VC community and startup, I don't think they're joining your program yet. Yeah, I think it's good to have introduction, yeah, of your product. I mean your LATOKEN VCTV in Indonesia. I was wondering also when I accept the email from you,
Yeah.
what is it, actually? But now I think it's quite exciting to have this kind of broadcast. Yeah?
Yeah, that would be awesome. Like I am in
Exactly.
Singapore,
Yeah.
Asia. Yeah,
Yeah.
build a
Yeah.
little South Asia VCTV. Thank you so much, Edward, for the invitation. And definitely we're going to have you
Yeah.
back on the panels. Stanley,
Yeah.
closing
Definitely. Thank
remarks.
you.
Closing remarks plus how to build a sustainable economy with decent jobs for everyone. Everybody should be having a job, a livelihood. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think yet again, I'm going to speak from the African continent perspective. I think this great gives the African continent a great opportunity to actually reinvent themselves. I think if you look at most of the first world are kind of, I will use the word constraint, because they actually have existing infrastructure which are very difficult to transition into the new way of doing things. And I think in the African continent, in transitioning over this new way of doing things, you create new type of jobs. We have over a billion people on the continent, which is another opportunity to actually also create a market. So I think this is social, if I can say, sustainable development provides a great opportunity for the continent to actually develop in a way that we don't have to be limited by the non-existent infrastructure, which before was our biggest downfall. Right now, it's kind of our biggest advantage because we don't need to break anything down before you build. So I actually look forward to the next chapter in development for Africa, to be honest.
That's awesome. That's great. Do keep us updated. Thank you, Stanley. Harsh, your insights and closing remarks.
So definitely, right? If you look at these sessions, as Edward was pointing out, it's been an amazing session. I get the opportunity to interact with great people like Raghu and Gary so frequently, and meeting new people like Edward and Stanley, right? It's absolutely amazing. We have people across the world. We are meeting new people, bouncing off new ideas, making new friends. It's absolutely amazing. But keep coming back over here, and that's what kind of keeps us engaged as well. To keep coming back to VCTV and have these amazing sessions. So really enjoying the experience right now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Harsh. And I really love your commitment. I think Gary, me, Harsh, all very committed to VCTV as we can see. Thank you so much. I hope everybody else to make out time. Raghu, I know it's very early for you to be on a Singapore panel, but still you are here today, and I'm glad to see you back. What's your closing remarks?
Yeah, I think you mentioned about jobs and sustainability. I think education, vocational education is very important. So people can instead of just getting a college degree and then trying to find a job, they should be going into areas like circular economy and things like that. It should be encouraged to have more vocational type of diplomas or courses. And startups are going to be very important, small businesses, because corporates are not going to be able to create enough jobs for everybody. So I think the governments need to focus on helping the startups and small businesses create jobs. And the state I live in New Jersey, they have an amazing program. They give angel investor tax credit, which is like 20 to 25%. It's 20% for all small emerging technology businesses, and 25% if it's a woman-owned or minority business. And this is for investors worldwide. It's not just New Jersey residents. So if you're in Singapore and you invest in a early stage New Jersey company, you'll get 20% back as a credit, right? Because you don't owe New Jersey taxes, you get a check. So this is something that I think all governments should really replicate to encourage early stage companies, because I strongly believe, as Peter Diamandis said, right, technology can make the difference, in terms of solving problems. It can be it creates abundance, as he calls it. His, abundance was his previous book. The new book is bold. So it's very, very important for technology and startups to flourish so that these problems will get solved, get the attention and create jobs.
And create jobs. Awesome, fantastic, and good to know about the tax rules for New Jersey incorporated investors. Oh, that's something that I wasn't aware, but good to know. Thank you, Raghu, for sharing that. Gary, closing remarks.
Yeah, I mean, so let's just remember that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And what we need to do is we need to create those opportunities and jobs to be able to make a dent in the universe. And the VCTVs of the world, getting the word out to folks all over the world to allow them to participate in this booming economy and to participate in the opportunities is just the right thing to do. And it's also a good business thing because I can tell you, when you look at Nigeria, which has 206 million people, Ethiopia has 100, I think South Africa is around 58 million. And there's so many people that have incredible skill sets that are untapped. It's like, why in the world wouldn't you do? When I went to Russia the first time back in 1992 and then moved there for 14 years, people said, "Oh, you're crazy. Why would you go to Russia? Are you a CIA agent?" I've heard so many things, right? And I went over there, and then I started to figure there's some of the brightest people on the planet Earth that were scientists and engineers, but they had not had a lot of marketing, sales, business development, operational experience. And when you combined it together, you create powerful opportunities. So what I'm saying is, let's reach out. There's three things. Multi-generational, right? Intergenerational teams, cultural diversity, and decentralization. That's the way the planet will move forward. That's the way we can make a dent in the universe. That's the way we can create a happier, more sustaining life.
Great closing remarks, Gary. Thank you so much for sharing that. And obviously, Russia. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, people from my country, like India, they used to go to Russia for medical education because the quality of education was so good. So yeah. So thank you so much, all of you, and I'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you for your insights, inputs, viewers, entrepreneurs, investors. Feel free to reach out to us. We can have you. That would be more than happy to have you on this VCTV and make you part of the family, as we say, as we call ourselves, VCTV, our VCTV family. So till then, as Gary says, stay healthy, stay happy, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye bye.